It is done. The U.S. and Mexico striking a major deal. No more tariffs, but still a lot of what ifs. Welcome, everybody. Happy weekend. I'm Neil Cavuto. My thanks to my buddy David Asman for filling in so ably last week. Now to the details of the deal that was struck really last minute. The Trump administration taking tariffs on Mexico goods off the table because Mexico has now agreed to do pretty much everything the president demanded. Take a tougher stance on illegal immigration, for one. We're going to get the take from Iowa Republican Senator Joni Ernst in just a minute. First to David Spunt at the White House on the deal and exactly what is in it. David.
Hey, Neil, good morning. President Trump left the White House about 25 minutes ago to an unknown location in the motorcade. The past few weeks, he's been golfing. We'll see where he is. But on the way, he tweeted that people are excited about this Mexico trade deal. Now, Neil, about a week ago, the Mexican foreign minister flew to the United States hoping to avert this crisis, as he called it. It seems like that worked out. Now, the president made this announcement just hours after getting home yesterday afternoon. It's fairly common for him to stop and talk to cameras on his way into the White House. Yesterday, he greeted supporters before heading inside. A few hours later, he put out this tweet. I want to read it. It reads in part, quote, "The tariffs scheduled to be implemented by the U.S. on Monday against Mexico are hereby indefinitely suspended." Now, big news, as many predicted the Monday deadline would pass and 5% tariffs would go into effect. Then early this morning, President Trump took to Twitter again. He wrote, "Mexico has agreed to immediately begin buying large quantities of agricultural products from our great patriot farmers." Now, Neil, here are the specifics from Mexico on the deal. The Mexican president will deploy 6,000 troops to the southern border, allow migrants waiting the conclusion of the American asylum process to be sent to Mexico, give migrants a chance to get a job. Now, this is a big one, stopping human trafficking and smuggling organizations, and then, if needed, take more action. Though Mexicans didn't specify those actions. Late last night, Mexico's ambassador to the United States spoke to reporters following the announcement of the deal. Listen.
Those crossing the U.S. southern border to seek asylum will be rapidly returned to Mexico, where they may await the adjudication of their asylum claims.
But will this deal work? That is the big question. Treasury Secretary Steve Mnuchin is in Japan. He spoke to reporters and said that if this does not work out and Mexico does not hold up their side of the bargain, it appears those tariffs could be back on the table. Neil.
Thank you, David, very much. David Spunt at the White House. The president just tweeting that Mexico has agreed to immediately begin buying large quantities of agricultural product from our great patriot farmers. That's a new wrinkle in here that was not known a little more than a few minutes ago. Iowa's Republican Senator Joni Ernst with us right now. Senator, always good to have you. Do you know, Senator, what those farm products might be?
I have not talked to the president yet about what those farm products might be, but we do know that Mexico is the #1 purchaser of Iowa's exported corn. So we do see this as a great step forward, and we are breathing a sigh of relief that we will not see these tariffs. The president negotiated with the Mexican delegation, and we are glad for that outcome.
Now, there are many of your colleagues, I don't know if you were among them, Senator, were saying that the president was overreaching here, that to use tariffs to get your way on something that had nothing to do with trade was a big overreach. Obviously, that is mitigated now, but what do you think of that?
Well, I am not in favor of tariffs. I think we need to get the USMCA trade deal done off the table, but we do recognize that there is a humanitarian crisis at the border, and we are calling on our Democratic colleagues to help step up and fund border security, fund those agents, fund additional beds as necessary. We need cooperation from our end to make sure that happens. The president has asked this for a very long time now. We as Congress need to step up and provide him with the tools necessary so that we don't have to face tariffs.
You know, the president will likely cite this agreement, Senator, to say, see, it worked out. My strategy here to force this and use trade as a lever worked, and he might try it again. If he were with another country, maybe for other reasons, are you okay with that?
Well, I would probably push back depending on the circumstances. Again, Mexico is typically a very, very good trade partner, normally a very good partner across the board for us. Countries like China, obviously, I do support the president's efforts with tariffs against China because they are very bad actors when it comes to working with us on trade deals. But certainly it depends on the circumstances. But the president is a brilliant negotiator, and he came out on top stop this time.
All right, when it comes to farmers and all, he allocated, I think, about a little bit more than $12 billion of the money he was getting from tariffs to help them out and to get them over this hump before a deal can be scored, presumably at the time with China. But they're still hurting. And I'm wondering what you tell farmers back in your state.
It is very tough, and our farmers are very, very concerned. They are anxious. We need to see some of these trade deals concluded and move on. Not only are we facing repercussions from these trade deals, various tariffs, but as you have seen, we have weather events crossing the Midwest that are really impacting our planting season as well. So they're in dire straits. They just want to see results. And if the president can deliver those results, they will continue supporting him.
Senator, I'd like to share a tweet you're probably familiar with from the Senate Minority Leader Chuck Schumer, who was writing this last night. I apologize. This is an historic night. The president has announced that he has cut a deal to greatly reduce or eliminate illegal immigration coming from Mexico and into the United States. And now that the problem is solved, I'm sure we won't be hearing any more about it in the future. What'd you make of it?
Well, I'm glad that the Democratic leader, Chuck Schumer, is supportive of the president's efforts. But, of course, we do need to see Mexico follow through with what they have agreed to. That is really important. So not only are Iowans and others across the United States concerned about illegal immigration, they're also concerned with making sure that we get trade deals done and so forth. So we need to address those. And there's a lot that Congress could be doing if we had the support coming from our colleagues on the left. I do know that a number of my colleagues have traveled to the border, and they do see the crisis that is ongoing. So hopefully we can gain a little more support from our colleagues in the Senate and actually move on legislation that will make a difference and enable our president to focus on the business of the day instead of this humanitarian crisis and illegal immigration.
Do you, when you talk about making sure the Mexicans honor this agreement, how do you go about seeing that, Senator, approving it? In other words, if there are more apprehensions at their southern border, I guess primarily with Guatemala, what do you want to see, and what do you suspect we should see that, the Mexicans are delivering on this?
Well, there are some concrete things that we can track, and one of that is the deployment of their Mexican National Guard and those soldiers along their border to actually stop others from Central America from flowing into Mexico. That we can track. We also need to see some results with the human trafficking. We are starting to see children that are being used as tools to get into the United States. They'll circulate with a family into the United States. That child will be sent back to Mexico, recirculated across the border with a different family or a different adult. So we need to see results there. We don't want to see the repeat offenders. We don't want to see the using of children to get across our border as well. Now, the asylum seekers as well, if we can return them to Mexico, where they will stay until they have been granted the opportunity to come in front of a judge, that's also one thing that we can track, too. So there are a number of concrete things that we can watch for with this Mexican agreement. And believe me, I do hope they follow through.
All right, Senator, thank you. Good seeing you on a Saturday.
Yeah,
we appreciate
thanks.
it. Senator Joni Ernst, a top player in Senate leadership. By the way, the Mexicans have said precious little about this agreement, just that they're glad it's resolved. They do plan to hold a rally, that is a Support Mexico rally in Tijuana later today. It was originally supposed to be a rally to defend the dignity of Mexico. Now with this deal being had, to celebrate Mexico itself. So we'll be on that.